All right, welcome to day 37 of raising funds for world domination. So continuing on with the series, here's my overview that you can read. We've already got a chatter. Harith Ran says, hello again. How's it going? So we can close that, and then I haven't had time to set the repo up yet, but I'll do that now. So today, I'm going to continue with, I did a little bit of work during the day today on the game. My goal is to get to a kind of releasable milestone in the next little while, and then I'll maybe pivot off of this recent content trend of doing the stream a day. I'll go move on to my next thing. So let's run that. To make sure it works. I'm sitting here with C Linux trying to work on the context of some process. I was scared that I would not see your live today. Yeah, I had when I woke up, I was like, oh, things are. I've got a head start on the day, and I could probably even stream like way earlier. But then a bunch of stuff came up, and so my start is a bit later today. But I gotta get in at least something. Okay, so there's no crashing. Now, unfortunately, I made it slower recently, so I'm working on fixing. There's some issues with. Now, if I can illustrate those issues, if I go. So open a help menu. If I do the following. Oh, actually, well, there it is. Yeah. So, so you can see this here. So if I resize, once it lags, I can get it to be really bad. But actually, I think one of the minor changes I made this problem not as bad. But yeah. Anyway, the issue I'm trying to work on now is, which I may have almost solved, is when messages get sent. When I send out notify messages to each frame to redraw itself, by the time it gets the message, sometimes the other frame, the neighboring frame, has already reprinted. So then this thing, like for example, this one here is much slower. So it can send a message. Send a delayed message out to the screen to print when, for example, its boundary. It thinks its boundary is over here, so it's printing in the wrong frame, and this frame is already updated. So anyway, the result is just a bunch of rendering issues. Christopher says, sup, how's it going? Yeah, so I guess looking at, it used to be much worse, but so the idea that I'm going to try and adopt is let's see, where's my... So I'm going to have a render transaction message. And so I just modified this. So on frame dimensions changed, these parameters are not needed anymore. I have two very similarly named functions here. Frame dimensions changed. Okay. Oh, okay. That's for the base class. That's not needed. Are using recursion on that function? Nope, there's no recursion on it. It's just it calls out to a base class. So I have the so each of those individual frames is one of these classes. A user interface frame thread state. Or I guess the frame is associated with two classes. There's the thread and then the thread state. And the way I have the application set up is that the different frames can interact. The different frames and also the overall like client model can interact by sending messages to the other threads, so that way they can operate independently. Can I have infinite Roblox? I don't know anything about Roblox. What is Robu? That's a good question. I'm guessing it's they're referring to Robux, Do you have any good recommendation on a book about Linux and internals? I don't have a recommendation about a book, but I guess it depends what you mean by internals, because there's a lot of stuff about internals. If you really want to learn like the boot process from scratch, there was a Hacker News thread from it was quite a while ago now. It might have been as much as like 10 years ago now. There was a Hacker News thread about it was a series someone published on GitHub. It was kind of like a blog, and it was kind of like the Linux boot process in detail. If you Google search for like the Linux boot process in detail, and then Hacker News maybe, or even if you just go to Hacker News and then search for like Linux boot process, and I remember it would have had like it probably would have had like hundreds and hundreds of upvotes. It was very popular, and it was like a 16-part series where this guy posted some write-ups on GitHub, and he was referencing like individual functions and stuff, and talking about like how his virtual memory set up and how is every single stage of the boot process done. Man command. This is probably man command is probably good, but there's a lot to know. From what I understand, I think Linus Torvalds has said that the ultimate documentation is in the code. The difficulty about running any documentation is it'll quickly get out of date. This is devious. What is this? I got it open now. So this is a terminal-based video game where you simulate the process of mining blocks by spamming the M key. So it's a video game that I'm working on, and right now I'm working on improvements to the UI. So right now you can do stuff like this. I can move that, and then I can open a frame. And so these are the most recent things I've been working on. Press Alt F4? No. I know what that does. Alt F4, Alt F4. I heard about Alt F4 is a good idea. Well, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about not pressing Alt F4, but I see a lot of people in the chat tell me it's a good idea. So maybe I should try it. Let's see what it does. Alt. I can't see the keys. Hey, that's not what I want. You guys are trying to trick me. Control Shift W. Control Shift W. Actually, I don't know what that does. Anyways, I'm leaving. See you later. Linux kernel source tree is open source. If you want to go that deep. Yeah, the source isn't quite as good as having if you get someone who's actually like interpreted it and followed it through. So, I mean, some of it at some point it can be a bit different because there'll be parts of the boot process that actually depend on the hardware you're using. Deletes the thing you're on? No, okay. Yeah, I haven't looked at this in years, but it was like a 16-part blog post series that was posted on GitHub. I assume it still exists somewhere. It might even be out of date now, but I think there were certain parts of it that were maybe there's been minor changes to the actual code, but probably the overall description of like how to set up virtual memory on x86 is probably not changed very much. And he went into exquisite detail because there's quite a few steps to booting a modern processor, because you got to think about threads and stuff, and there's all kinds of buffers and memory mapped such and such, and especially when you're abstracting this for all kinds of different hardware. Close this terminal session instead of window. Doesn't show a prompt. Oh, okay. I'm a fish, so technically I'm not the stupid one. The situation. Quantum Nonsense says, how's it going? Not too bad. What is your opinion on Windows Server? Back in the day, this was a while ago, I remember using Internet Information Services 6, 7, and 8 for I think it was my first co-op. I used a bunch of Windows stuff, and we used Internet Information Services. And then, since then I have not used. I guess maybe you mean. I think there's like Windows Server. That's a specific like distribution of Windows. But yeah, I think I have used a Windows Server version a long time ago, but not in a long time. Want to create malloc on my own? Maybe one day. I guess if you want to learn how malloc works, like the efficient way actually involves using like hooking into virtual memory, because if you don't have virtual memory, if you don't have an MMU, you can implement malloc like an embedded system or something, but you just have to like physically manage the memory yourself. And then you can have the runtime for like allocating, for like freeing and allocating blocks is much longer, but you can do it basically like in constant time if you have an MMU. So that's one of the reasons virtual memory is so important. It also solves memory external memory fragmentation issues if you have an MMU for malloc. This is why PSD works so well on old hardware. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with PSD. Why are you making a game on terminal instead of actual gaming software? The reason is because most of my existing audience, is interested in Linux command line terminal stuff, and I think it makes sense to bootstrap it this way, because this is it's very unique. So that's something there's like a unique appeal in the advertising for it, and I think if it runs in the terminal, most of the code and like backend stuff can exist. I can work on building that and then add something on top of it. So there's nothing precluding actually having a really nice fancy graphics 3D way of connecting to the same underlying model. So it could even be possible in the future to have like an extra flag, so the entire world just boots up in a 3D engine instead of the terminal. mmap. Yeah, I think there's, I can't remember, is that a kernel function, or I think it's probably something like that. The licensing of Windows Server is such a ripoff. Funneled into their Azure pipeline. I'm not even familiar with the license, but doesn't what you said doesn't surprise me. I love what you're doing. Excellent. That's good. Someone out there appreciates my hard work. My goal in life is changing every Windows Server to Linux. It's going to be a lot of work. mmap is a system call that malloc uses. Okay. Used to be per server, now it's per core. Oh wow, that's going to be the slippery slope of just like changing the definition of like the old model is going to be you have a license to run this on like one computer or something, and now they're gonna that's I think they're going to be the gateway to all sorts of creeping like insane specifications, like you are allowed to use this on a computer that has this kind of hardware, or that or you're not allowed to use it if you also have a competitor's software on the same computer, or if you they're going to start charging you per function call or something ridiculous. Okay, nerds, how do I make socks in Dwarf Fortress? Now I'm dead if I can't get my Dwarf Fortress socks. I'm not sure, actually. I've never actually played Dwarf Fortress. Imagine paying for licenses. Businesses have to. Okay. I was working outside today. It was 113 F. Wow. 47 degrees Celsius. 113 freedom units. Well, that's incredible. Actually, here it was. What is it? It's June tomorrow, and I'm wearing a sweater today. When I went outside, I was cold with this on. The weather we've had this year here has been unseasonably cold. Water bottles I drank were melting. Yeah, I would imagine it at that temperature. Do you know if you give 2 breeding rats unlimited resources within 50 years, you will have more rats than there are Planck volumes in the observable universe? I've drank probably too much, but math is math. Well, you've got a point there. If you give 2 breeding rats unlimited resources within 50 years, you'll have more rats than there are Planck volumes in the observable universe. I come from northern climate. I assume Canada is very small. Not ever that hot. I assume Canada's very similar. Actually, I would say around this time of year, we have crazy temperature swings. I don't know I'm not sure what our record is, but like it would not be unusual for us to, like within 2 days for it to be like, 32, 33 Celsius. Like we do get temperature swings that are on the order of like 40-degree up and down in a couple days. I mean, the Middle East. Yeah, I bet it's consistently warm there. In AU, assume that means you're in Australia. 2 to the 10 times 4 to the power of 419 rats. That's a lot of rats. Yeah, I don't know. You might be onto something. Maybe there's a business idea there. I mean, I'm sure you can't sell rats for much, but if you had 2 times 10 to the power of 419 rats, maybe you could sell them. Middle East is more dry heat, but definitely hotter. Northern climates have high humidity, so it feels hot even if it's not that bad. Yeah, we definitely get humidity here. I remember that from I did an internship. I was in California for the summer, and the heat down there is very dry. And then as soon as I got off the plane here in Toronto, it just immediately hit me at this like not just the heat, but like the uncomfortableness of the high humidity. Sensor X says, "Yo." I know that I lived in Ukraine and the humidity was the hardest thing when combined with heat. Yeah, I think Ukraine's climate is actually kind of similar to Canada in a way. I know a lot of like, if you take a picture of like the forest or something in Ukraine, it looks quite similar to Canada. Lake Michigan, 6th largest lake on Earth. If you want the ocean without the fish smell, you found the right place. Lake Michigan. I guess that's probably not too far from here. I don't think. I don't know my geography of the Great Lakes very well. I have to go. Nice to see you all. Thanks for stopping by. Now I got to think about. I want to try and consolidate some of these messages I'm throwing around. In my area, I live next to Snowmelt water reservoir, southern for California. When it gets super hot, the humidity goes up exponentially due to evaporation. It's not fun. Well, if you're close to water, maybe your one advantage is if you have forest fires around there. Hopefully, you're a bit more protected. You have something to actually put it out with. Draw with Deba Giotti says hi. Hi. Granzi says, don't surrender, man. Don't worry, I won't. DRE says, hi from Kitchener. High form pineapple. How's it going, pineapple? Problem is, it's damn so that LA and Silicon Valley can drink. Well, I guess if you have a forest fire, you can ask nicely if you can just borrow a little bit to put the flames out. Maybe they won't mind. Good. Bad speed length. Bad spelling. What is your objective? I don't understand much English. So the thing I'm doing, I'm working on a video game that runs in the Linux terminal. So here's what the game looks like. So you wander around, you spam the M key like this. And right now, I'm working on changing the UI around so I can do stuff like that. I can open new frames. So I'm just improving the UI a little bit. So that's the objective. My city actually sets fires on purpose. It's a controlled burn. Roseback greener. I guess that's a good thing. I know some of the really bad fires, they've cited lack of controlled burns as one of the problems. Yay, video game. Yea, indeed. Goldfish. Probably want Linux Mint. I've yet to try Linux Mint. You should get into ASMR channel. You have a calming whisper. Yeah, people mention that a bunch. I guess it's already an ASMR channel. Play some music. Some people have suggested music, but on YouTube I have to. The copyright is a problem, so I have to make sure I don't play copyrighted music. Otherwise, everything gets taken down, and it's just not worth the bother. And even if I find like copyright free, if it's stolen, fake copyright free, and then it's taken down like in 6 months or something, and I get like the whole channel gets striked. It's a big problem. Has the ASMR voice 100%. Well, that's good. There's I've seen some videos where people have like an absolutely terrible voice for YouTube, and the comments are full of people saying like, your voice is terrible. Music, we need music. Put a cheese grater onto mic. You can just open a new tab, and then put some music on that. You see the new video from Freebird? Nope. I'm not familiar with. I think isn't there a song Freebird? Leonard Skinnerd. Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't remember exactly. Any tenant hearing updates? I've not heard any new additional information from tenant board. Not yet. I guess it's Saturday, so I saw the I logged in my thing today, and it changed from hearing scheduled to like pending pending update or something like that. And then someone else today I heard said the next hearing might be in August, which would give me another decent amount of time. Oh yeah, I forgot I can get super chats. $1.99. Pineapple sends $1.99 for world domination. Thank you very much. You should pull the copper from the house and sell it if you can. No, that's a violation of my tenancy agreement. I have to comply with the terms of the tenancy agreement at all times. I wonder how much you can get for the copper wire. G2G, gotta go now, bye. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. Linux Mint is on my laptop, but I really want Windows XP. So my laptop actually works. Windows XP was peak operating system. I don't think there will ever be a better operating system than Windows XP. It's kind of sad, but in a way that's actually true. Like at least from the Microsoft world, there will literally never ever be an operating system, a Windows operating system as good as Windows XP. Christopher sends £10. Wow, thank you very much. World Domination Fund. Thank you. From your mouth to God's ears. Yes, hopefully God will listen to our prayers and bless us with the holiest of operating systems. I assume there's probably there's probably some Linux distribution now that it looks exactly like Windows XP. That must exist. I don't know. Does anyone out there know about it? Imagine Windows XP 7 beta hybrid. That would be pretty good. Windows 7 was all right. I'd have nothing against Windows 7. XP though was that was so nice and simple. Bro went up to me. Joke's on him though. You've still got the crown. I guess I don't know how the algorithm works, but the algorithm still has you are the number one person in the chat right now. That's what that purple crown means. But I guess they put it there to force people into competing. Windows XP is when I learned how to hack Linksys routers. Can enable WinSock. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate how hackable a lot of consumer routers are. I wish there was more competition in that space. And apparently there's been a lot of Chinese companies that have brands of one would question if they're deliberately hackable routers that are super cheap. We have pretty good funding going on. Yes, indeed. $15, and that's US too, so that's even more in Canadian. got another super chat. James Goodrich sends, for the love of evenity. Evenity? $14.55. Thank you very much. We're at I get it. To make the chat revenue even. Thank you very much. Actually, joke's on you though, because the chat revenue over here, it'll if you keep an eye on it, it changes back and forth between US dollars. So right now it's in US dollars, and then later it'll change to Canadian dollars, and it goes back and forth. And it took me a long time to notice that, but I don't know what causes it to change. Just randomly changes back and forth. Have you used and LLMs to make things easier, or have you found that it's making things worse? So I honestly, I've not experimented a lot with large language models. I've been so busy with random stuff in my day-to-day life recently. I haven't had the time to research it. A lot of people ask me about large language models, but I have made some basic attempts to, like, for example, testing of ChatGPT, getting it to write code. There's also in IntelliJ, there's a thing. It has a thing on the side to like open up an AI thing, and apparently you gotta like log into it and stuff, which makes sense because it probably talks to an API. And from everything I read, the built-in one is terrible, and also I looked it up. There's also a GitHub Copilot plugin for IntelliJ, and on the reviews for that one, I was thinking about maybe experimenting with it, and every single review was like 1 star, and they're all saying like this thing doesn't work. It has like it does something with the wrong file, or it's using like an old version of Copilot, and people are just complaining about all these issues. And then I also tried Copilot on GitHub, and at first it just like didn't work. I had like JavaScript errors in the website. Then the next day I tried a couple times. I asked it like how would I implement something. It gave me some like stuff that's not wrong, very general. Then I asked it something a bit more specific, like create a like, for example, these classes. I asked it to create like, this one's very simple, but I had one that was a little bit more complicated. And I said like, make me another work item class that is similar to this one, but it does such and such. It calls a method for takes a list of whatever, and the result that it gave me, it did exactly what I wanted. So I have started to think I should probably start using this more. The only issue I have, so when I did that was on GitHub, so I'm not like, I just need to get it set up in the context where I'm actually coding. But I have heard there's a bunch of issues still about like, so the editor I'm using is IntelliJ. So there's this one, AI chat. I've heard this is garbage. I've yet to try it. And there's a whole bunch, there's like a million plugins. I kind of almost don't even trust some of them because they're probably some marketplace thing. I don't want to download malware. But I would say I probably could benefit from the large language model stuff if I actually learn to use it a bit more effectively. But then again, I don't know. Like for something like this, I have a workflow where if I want to make a class like this, I probably just copy and paste this one, and then I know in my mind, I have all the muscle memory to know what to modify, and I won't make like this kind of subtle, hard to see mistakes that the large language model might. I'm actively using LLMs to learn, non-vibe coding, no copy paste. It's accelerated my learning curve substantially. Yeah, actually, I would say so when you Google stuff, Google has the like large language model chat. So if you if you Google, so like, Java, how to create a Java, how to create a initialize a list or something like that. I find a lot of times now when you Google that, the very first like the AI summary is basically doing it's just doing that for you. So out of habit, I just Google stuff. And more recently, I have actually found value in the like large language model code generated code through Google. So in that respect, I have actually kind of been relying on it a bit more. I built 10 apps from scratch with success. Clive is killer. But I want local only. Clive is on VS Code. Yeah, that's another consideration. I don't really like the idea of calling out to a cloud, sharing the code and stuff. Because I don't know. There might be something in their license where they're like, you give us perpetual license to use this code. Oh, see the revenue? It changed. It's now $41.22 Canadian. I gave my React exam ITK. If I will pass or not, twice studied whole night and day for it. Oh yeah, I recall from last night or the other night or recently you were talking about the React exam. Well, I hope you did well. For instance, I use it to make a Bluetooth monitoring system for my Polar H10 with Polar's SDK, and it's crazy good so far. Yeah, some of the latest models, like honestly, I'm extremely impressed at what the LLMs can do. But in my mind, the biggest barrier now is just like the operating conditions in which it runs. So like just getting it to run, getting it integrated with the code, getting all the context into it and stuff. Which I guess I've learned the hot new thing now is called Model Context Protocol, I guess. So that's supposed to solve that issue. Try Cloud Code. It's pretty good, TBH. I would say Cloud 4 thinking is pretty on par with the junior software engineer. Yeah, that's crazy. It's it's going to be rough being a junior software engineer now. That in the overall job market, it's it's difficult these days for young people. The models are improving. Actually, it's difficult for everyone. There's a lot of elderly people in this building who are also not doing great. Models are improving. I was using it 2 years ago, and it was shite. Now it's a really valuable tool and a full-time teacher. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it's never going to get worse. It's only going to get better. No vibe coding kills my computer. That is. You should not use LLM. Actually makes you very lazy to learn. So one of the things I would like to go and change my coding journey. Yeah, I do kind of. I haven't used them a lot yet, but I do kind of foresee that it eventually will be. Like I do see some people come to rely on them a lot, where you just like keep asking the LLM to solve the problem, but then it'd be faster to just do it yourself. Heard Cloud was blackmailing people now. Yeah, I think I saw the same headline about they gave it a bunch of emails or something, and he used some knowledge about an affair to blackmail him. How's the weather back home right now, Rob? Haven't been back a few years. Almost forgot what it's like during this time of year. It's here it's pretty cold. Today was pretty cold. I was like pretty cool with this sweater on out today. It's unseasonably cold. Northern India, bro. It's raining. So chill right now. Yeah, India has India's huge. I'm sure there's some really nice weather in certain places there. I run locally now with LM Studio, so no takings of my code. If you have an Apple Mac Mini, you have the ability to run locally and get 20 tokens per second. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we can run this kind of stuff at all on like consumer hardware. So that is that. I guess he's saying. Is that cloud? What LM Studio? I guess so. Is LM Studio the model name? Like, is the alternative to cloud, or? I told me LLM server to never tell me the solution, just to help me. I was getting it myself. I guess it's a decent. Yeah, I mean, there could be a lot of power and just coming up with the right like context prompts, or like the right what do you call it? I don't know, preambles or something, or like stubs to put in at the end start of your prompt. Because I've heard that if you ask it like, if you ask it first, like, if you ask just a general question, it gives you something accurate. But if you ask, imagine you're an extremely intelligent university professor with 10 years experience doing this. Answer the following question. If you just prime it, if you basically like pretend that you're smart, if you literally just say that apparently improves the quality of the output. So just like setting the right context to a certain point, I guess, because if you ask like I think if you ask it stuff like imagine that you have an IQ of 110, now answer this question, that'll give you better results than if you say like imagine you have an IQ of 100. But then when it goes to a point, if you say like imagine you have an IQ of 1000, what it'll do is end up like pulling on like science fiction documents and stuff, so then it kind of doesn't really work. Like science fiction documents about people with super genius, so it's like it would give you results that mimic what a dumb person would imagine that a genius would be like. LM Studio is an app that runs locally. No internet access needed. Yeah, that'd be nice to. I wouldn't mind just having a beefy server in my place to run my LLMs on. I live in a place like Switzerland. It's called Shimla. No overpopulation, with high density for thousands of kilometers. Nice. Switzerland would be I think an ideal place to live. Although I saw I think I actually saw there was a news thing about there's some glacier collapsed somewhere in Switzerland and like buried a town. Imagine if a nurse came along and shocked your computer with paddles every time you typed clear. I've never imagined that, but from now on I will. GPT-03 has a verified mental IQ of 136 and can find a precise location off just a single image. It has web search tools. Yeah, I mean, statements like that, like on one hand, you say like AI is just a hype, but then you start thinking about how to connect this stuff together, and just so many different things are getting so good so fast. It's makes you wonder, what does the future hold? You can daisy chain Mac Studios for local LLMs. Costly but possible. Interesting. You go ahead and VS Code with LM Studio as the LLM. Oh, okay. It does take longer, but it's nice. Since they have without route restrictions. Okay, I mean, I guess I'll maybe have to research this LM Studio. So LM Studio you can run locally, and you can run VS Code locally. Because that would be the kind of ideal thing, is not having to use some garbage API and sign into crap. You can firewall it from the internet. Do we have to train those LLMs according to our needs? I see the connecting minis. That's a good idea. They really are crazy fast with memory usage. By the way, Robert, you into game designing, right? In a way, I would say I'm kind of not at all a game designer. I'm most of my experience is in like server development and working on embedded stuff, web stuff. I've never actually worked on any kind of professional game, but I would say that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm pursuing just the terminal-based thing, because I want to focus more on the model development and maybe do some of the networking and stuff, and then if I can get some traction on it, then I don't know, maybe hire some people to build a better UI. Llama is open source. Yeah, there's so much to research with all this stuff. I can't keep track of all the different AI tools and models and Game Dev Chances. Hey, how's it going? LM Studio is king. Any LLMs you want or can handle. It's changed my game probably 500% to be honest. Llama has 405 billion parameter models. That's a lot. Neil Artis sends, because that's a waving hand. I can't quite see the person or icon behind that. Need to get a bigger monitor. All right, we did our name change. By the way, it's fascinating. It's morning here. Just woke up. It's currently 11:35 p.m. here. Open parameters to not equal open source. I guess that makes sense, but I guess the question though is what would be the legal implication, legal distinction between those? Data set as parameters. Streaming streak is still going strong. Yep. I mean I made it this far, so I figure I might as well keep going. I mean I've done it for 37 days. I can't skip a day. The base model, Mac Mini from 2020. M1 architecture can run 6-bit models that can handle complex questioning. That's pretty it's pretty incredible. It just man, it brings up so many questions like what is the things going to be like when this stuff is like properly integrated, because there's already so much low-hanging fruit that these models could do if they could just like get better access to things Good revenue tonight? Yes. It was a pleasant surprise. Yeah, Kush Studio says, good game. All right, let's do more consolidation. More consolidation of some of these events. Now, will this totally break everything? We will find out. So this is going to consolidate a couple of the different message types, because I'm going to try and make them a bit smarter. It'll also make it slower, but okay, that's not too bad. That was kind of crazy. Interesting. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I think it's recentering it. I gave a lobotomized DeepSeek R1 model multiple choice math problem with all choices being wrong, and it still got it right. GPT got wrong. Multiple choice math problem with all choices being wrong. Multiple choice math problem with all choices being wrong. So it refused. It refused to give one of the multiple choices, and it just answered it. That's impressive. If you were to learn DSA, data structure and algorithms, where would you learn from? Any recommendations? If I was learning that now, so I've never even looked at lead code before, but what I keep hearing from people is the status quo these days is grinding lead code for that stuff. I don't know. I guess you guys can speak to how accurate that is. But I've never tried it before, but to kind of gamify and try and find some. There probably are a lot of like problems on there, and it would help to kind of quantify it and gamify it and give you a sense of progress and stuff. But I don't know. Anyone from the comment section can chime in on how useful lead code would be, grinding lead code would be for learning data structures and algorithms. Of course, there's like YouTube videos and stuff you can watch. Game Dev Chat sends another $10. Wow. LLM is better at stealing your data than anything else. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I if I was going to use it, I'd want to prefer one of the local models. And one of the other reasons I'm kind of hesitant to use them, because I'd have to I should actually read the terms of service. And then even if you do read the terms of service, they can still, I'm sure they'll say we sample some of this data to give you better service, to improve. I ended up giving a quote for a storage yard for an entire camera security system with solar panels, batteries, everything on 20-foot tall poles. Anyways, it came out to $1,000 per security pole station. Solar panels and batteries. Interesting. Is it a completely off-grid one, or is that the battery that's just for backup if power goes out? 1,000 per pole. I think that's what it said. Yeah, 1,000. That's not too bad. I mean, for any kind of industrial thing, you'd expect to spend crazy amounts of money. Solo Trade says, "Yo, bro, I knew what's going on. So I am currently doing work on my terminal-based block mining game. So I'll just boot that up since it's compiling now." Heading out. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you for the super chat. So you asked about what I'm doing. So I am currently working on this terminal-based video game where you simulate the process of mining blocks in the terminal, and you get to spam the M key. And right now I'm working on improving the UI, so I can move the things around and select them and so forth. All right. So I just merged some message types. And now I think I can delete some functions. Oh, I didn't want to do that. So you don't do lead code. My university taught us if you can't do DSA, you cannot do anything in life. Is there more coding? DSA, I'm not sure what that acronym stands for in this context. I don't do lead code because lead code came after me. So when I was in university, I don't think lead code existed. I don't remember anyone doing lead code back then. I think it was like a few years after I graduated, lead code was a thing. So I just never had a reason or necessity to look at it. But from what I understand, it's like the go-to thing now. And I would imagine, I always thought it would be kind of fun to have like gamified, like really quantifiable feedback and stuff. Running power lines is about $3 a foot. About $5,000 in just power lines. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Not to mention, you're paying for electrical too. Yeah, I think you have to like pay per year to set up poles and stuff. Why is black on? Why is black on green the easiest on eyes in the terminal? Just follow nostalgia. I think there's a I think there's like a quantifiable energy argument. So there's I can't remember if it's related to the number of distribution of photoreceptors in the eye, or if it's also I think it's also maybe a bit about the frequency response. So if you like for any wavelength of light, if you have monochromatic green light, you need fewer photons to actively perceive green light as opposed to other colors, assuming you have normal color vision. It's like one third as many photons or something. Probably because in natural environments, we need much better like sensitivity to like luminosity differences. We need to be able to see if we're like physically outside walking around in the woods, being able to perceive differences in the luminosity differences in the woods when you're amongst like foliage is more important. Security cameras are a weird trade-off. If you want them to be theft-proof, then you have to upload to the cloud and eat the security risk, or set up and pay and maintain your own real-time backup. Yeah, I've thought about it's something I've thought about a bit more. That's one of the things. If I had another surge of revenue, I'd probably start thinking about setting up my own security system. Praying for your ascendance. Thank you very much. Green is triggered by two types of cells. Yeah, there's a bit of there's an interesting there's like if you look at if you Google image search for like frequency response of colors eye diagram or something like that, then you can see there's like some of the other cells will actually get some frequency response for both the red, green, and blue, or all of red, green, and blue. But it's kind of there's a different shape to the frequency response of all three of them. People have recently been shown a true green with lasers of specific wavelengths using their peripheral vision. They said it was the most vibrant green they've ever seen. Yeah, it's interesting. I dug. What was I working on? Oh, I was working on when I was working on like learning how printing works on Linux. I started getting. I had to learn about like how color profiles and stuff worked, and I learned like the kind of rendering intentions and like how gamuts and stuff are converted. so I actually had to sit down and actually learn a bit about like the color charts and stuff, and so that led me down the rabbit hole of like the actual physical biological mechanism of color vision in humans. And there's a lot of interesting detail there. Like if you look up the if you search for like frequency response diagram of RGB human vision, you'll see like three peaks, but there's actually there's like a gap there, and there's some people have a fourth one. They have a fourth cone or rod in that location, and so they can sense an extra color that other people cannot, and those people are called tetra. If they have that and can perceive it, they're called functional tetrachromats. And interestingly, only women can be functional tetrachromats because it has to do with there's a different because women have two X chromosomes. It means that because you can get a slightly different variant of the opsin molecule, slightly different a code for the slightly different orientation of the opsin molecule on two different versions of the same, like what would otherwise have been in red, green, or blue. And so that allows them to perceive. I think they've described it as they've said like shadows have like an extra color gradient on them. When they look at like the shadows of trees and stuff, they can kind of see like a certain, like one's like a silvery shadow or one's a brown or. And the other interesting thing is I think even in like so-called normal color vision women, I think it's still theoretically possible for them to have like two slightly different variants of like the normal RGB colors. So there's a stereotype that women are like more picky about colors and stuff, and they care about what color to paint the house, and they have stronger preferences that way. But I think that's probably there's probably some like actual biological truth to that. And he said they're the first to see this true green. They needed to shine the laser on specific cells. They first had to map people's eyes. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. Apparently there's also there's a phenomenon people have experienced with what was it? I think it was like some colorblind people when they had I think some colorblind people. I can't remember the exact experiment. I think they took like hallucinogens or something, and they were able to perceive so-called Martian colors that they would ordinarily not experienced in life, because they had like the mental circuitry to perceive it, but the eyes were not able to activate it. Pineapple says, I'm back. Yay. I'm going to DM you a link for a cheap camera I recommend. I'll send it on Discord. Thanks. Heck yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. Science of sight is dope. It probably takes the doubling of the gene through two chromosomes. That is, women they say they can see auras, I'm sure. Yeah, there's actually there's quite a few different phenomena. There's one is apparently some people can see the polarization of light. If you Google that, there's a Wikipedia page on it. Some people see polarization of light. I forget exactly what their perception is. Another one is the fact that so you can take monochromatic light, like RGB monochromatic light, and you can directly map it to a perceived color. But the reverse direction is not necessarily true. So you can perceive a color, and that color can can map to multiple different like integrations of what you are actually seeing. So if you take I think like mathematically the way to think about it is if you take if you're perceiving color if you're perceiving color of a specific sensation, and it aligns with like one of the peaks, that could be monochromatic light that's like right centered at that peak, but it also could be two smaller peaks at different areas of the spectrum. So you could have two pieces of monochromatic light. I mean, the common example is yellow. So you can have monochromatic yellow light because yellow is on the spectrum, on the electromagnetic spectrum, is a specific frequency. But you can also have two pieces of light. I guess what would it be on either side? What is it? Yellow and red, I think. So if you have like, what is it? Yeah, or yellow. Or sorry, red and green. And if you have those two, if you have monochromatic light of those two frequencies, then your eye perceives it as yellow, which is, I think, one of the ways that how monitors work. It's curious. I've always likened the effect to be similar to chromatic aberration. That's another interesting. Yeah, I think I've also thought a lot about like we don't talk a lot about the optical differences of eyes. What is this? So this is some work I'm doing. I'm getting distracted. Let me fire up the terminal game. Yeah, so something I've thought about is different people's eyeballs are different sizes. And that would have an effect on things like how fine of details you can resolve, and the amount of like, aberration in the eye. And another one is, I've often wondered, like, the cat's pupils are a different shape, so there's probably a perceptual difference to that, because the size of the aperture relates to like the wavelength specificity. So if you have a camera, this. If you shut down the aperture, you can get like much more modern. You can get like kind of a like almost like an iridescent color, monochromatic iridescent color, and it looks really like colorful and sparkly, but it's very dark. But then if you open the aperture wide up, you get like a kind of washed out, like a glowy, like very bright effect. And I've kind of wondered if there wasn't something there going on in the perception of cats, how you can, and maybe there's like some evolutionary adaptation about how they actually see that relates to the shape of their pupil. Yeah, you asked about what is this? So this is what I'm working on. And I'm working on doing some UI changes, but I'm getting distracted talking to chat. I'm one of those people that see polarization. My eyes have trouble focusing on monitors. Rotated by 90 degrees. Oh, okay. Interesting. I activated my fellow autists. I use a low pressure sodium bulb to produce monochromatic yellow light. You have a fire with sodium in the fuel. It will create fire that absorbs light. Black fire. Interesting. I bet the cat's brain does some filtering, like our brains flip the vision. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting science that I think could be done there. Yeah, I think it's also problematic because people are way too willing to like not study it scientifically and just be like, this person has like supernatural, like it subscribes, some kind of supernatural, like pseudoscientific interpretation of it or something, as opposed to just like actually measuring this stuff in a large number of people. Cats have a much wider field of view, and also local focal effects would be very pronounced and different. Cuttlefish pupils are W-shaped. Interesting. Okay, what was I doing? Okay, I was removing unused functions, I think. What would a goat see since it has horizontal pupils? So I think that question is kind of, it's actually maybe a bit easier to understand to answer than you think. So if you actually you can just look this up on YouTube. If you look for I'm trying to figure out the search term. If you look for shaped bokeh effects, so B-O-K-E-H, and you'll find some videos on if you actually just take a wide angle, very wide aperture lens, actually just like the camera that's out there in front of me, and you put you basically take a piece of paper. So I could take a piece of paper and cut, like, say, an inch tall heart shape. If I then focus that camera, so actually like that, back here everything's my hands are really out of focus right there. So if, like, for these lights, if I want to make the bokeh effect of those out of focus lights like a heart shape, if I just put a like a piece of paper in front of it, literally, to kind of like add something at the aperture, it'll that'll be the effect that it has. Now, if you mess around with it, so anywhere that the well, what you can do is if you Google search for the point spread function, you can just imagine whatever shape you have as a whole bunch of, if you just imagine a whole bunch of little holes poked in whatever your aperture is. And so if you have anywhere it's like at the ends, you could probably get let's see, well, in one axis you would get lots of like color specificity. So you get like around the edges of it, you'd see like lots of sorry, I'm not describing it very well, but when you close the aperture down a lot, you get if you're looking at something like a piece of plastic or whatever, you'll get to see lots of like color filtering. Because what it does, because if the aperture is at a very small angle, it only lets in a very, very specific light at a very specific angle. And so things like thin film interference, you will be able to select for a very specific wavelength, whereas when you have the aperture wide, you see all of the colors, and so you don't actually see, you're getting all the colors at once, so it just looks like white light. So it would give you the ability to discriminate between colors, iridescent colors, on one axis. Sorry if I derailed your chat. No worries. I was already on track to being derailed. Yeah, today was a very distracted day. I got up early and I was like, oh, I'll get so much work done. And then just random distractions all day. Okay, that works. We can remove that function. Now maybe I will rename maybe we should take this opportunity to name that better. I've been missing a bunch of your streams lately. How's the defense process going? Wasn't there a second day for the first hearing? There's going to be another hearing scheduled. So we ran out of time before we were going to call another witness, and then so the plan now. So right now we're waiting to know when is the next hearing date going to be, and that will be, someone said August or something maybe. So it might. I think he said it probably would not be June. So we've got a bit longer to wait yet. So more. That's another round of fun to wait to figure out when the hearing is, and then when the hearing date comes around, then we got to partition some more time off to go to that. I mean, thankfully I don't go anywhere very often. Let's see, which classes? Help menu. Nice. So you're buying some time. Yeah, in my opinion, this hearing went quite well, in my opinion, and I think the landlord's case looks very weak. I mean, informally, like it was a bogus. It's pretty bogus that the building was fine for years and years and years, and then like instantly, as soon as the new owner bought it, it was like, oh, gotta evict everybody, and they presented some evidence that was, I think, pretty weak. How much prep has been done for world domination? That's a good question. Not a whole lot. I actually am planning. So I have some goals in mind with the block mining game, and once I reach those, I probably will do a like revealing my world domination plans stream or something. But I've just been too busy with other stuff lately. Trying to get pushed to the next milestone for this thing so I can stop working on it for a while. I hope it doesn't end in the dead of winter. I don't think so. I think it's I think it'll probably be scheduled relatively soon. I think from the tenant board's perspective, I think they want to like get it off of their docket and just like and I think especially if their perception is that already, given the evidence they see, if the case looks weak, then they're probably like, why don't we just get this over with and then just like deny all the N13s. I don't think Ontario has winter eviction protection laws. Like Quebec. Yeah, I don't know. If it happens, it happens. Maybe for some of the other tenants who are even more vulnerable, then maybe the tenant board can grant them some leniency. Okay. All right, what was I going to do now? I just wanted to run our off-grid home with only radio access. Only radio access. You have to build some tunnels to tunnel internet over that radio link. Off-grid with radios. There's a guy in this building who's elderly. He says that he only listens to radio. That's one of his pastimes. Harith Ryan says, "Hello guys again. Now don't know how people live with set and force to D, set to 0. You want your house back? We had a tenant hearing. In the hearing, we were about to call another witness, and we ran out of time. So there's going to be at least one more hearing date. Now let's see if this crashes. He's making a SD Linux joke. Oh, okay. I guess that went over my. Oh, set and force. I now don't know how people live with set and force to 0. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't used it enough to really get confident. So I forget. Set and force 0. Does that turn on the security or turn it off? Or I guess that must turn it off. Zero equals null. I'd assume it's 0. Generally means false. Turns off SD Linux if you set to 0. Yeah, I haven't. I know like noobs just turn it off a lot. But from what I understand, it's relatively simple. Like if you get a policy violation, you can just like kind of lazily run something to add whatever those to enable whatever those policy violations were. I only used it enough to I only used it enough to make those couple of videos that I made. Okay. That doesn't crash. Let's remove. see if this crashes. You at least want passive, so it reports logs violations. Dead Music says, "Hello, brother. How are you? I'm not too bad. Just doing some work on the block mining simulation game. And it looks like it works. No crashes. All right, looks good. All right, it's already past midnight. 12:30 a.m. All right, well, I made some progress tonight. I had hoped to almost finish this new improvement by today, but does that mean day 38? Yeah, I guess it does. We're on 37 now, so we'll be back tomorrow for day 38. I'm pretty sure you could save yourself a bunch of time by getting into Ansible. Maybe. Honestly, well, I know with Java there's Maven, there's Gradle. I don't quite know exactly what Ansible does as an alternative, if it's an alternative to Maven, or I actually do need to, I think, work on maybe the build getting the build process to be faster, more efficient, but I'm not even sure if it's even possible. I kind of thought when I went with IntelliJ, it would have some like smartness about it, that it would understand the like Maven lifecycle a bit better. But then, of course, once I actually got the project set up, running in it, it became clear that it does not. It doesn't really. There's no compile time advantage, at least that I've been able to figure out. Maybe if I restructure the project or something, but I think some of the suggestions are basically like you should restructure your project as like a mono repo, but I don't want to do that. I want to actually have it as different modules. Ansible runs a playbook that are comprised of modules that do regular admin stuff in a hermetic way that is repeatable. Picture a playbook as a collection of bash scripts that don't fail. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I'll add it to the list of things to Google. There's so many. Who was it that was recommending to me? What was that editor? Helix editor, I think it was maybe you who recommended Helix. I have not tried it. Have not even looked it up. Makes your life easier. Don't forget about the inventory, where you can do so many changes to do so many devices via SSH. That was I who recommended Helix. Well, I haven't forgotten it. It's in my mind. I guess the way it works, if people remind me like 100 times, by that 100th time, like from the chat I do, there's so many different LLM tools and stuff people recommend. and eventually, what is it? VS Code is one of the big ones. Cloud, that's the other big one right now. It's in my brain right now. I know the other one is NeoVim. I need to try that out. Just trying to make your life easier. Yeah, I appreciate it. That is one benefit of streaming is people, if you're doing something dumb, everyone will just bug you about it and be like, hey, why are you doing this? And then if it's something easy to fix, you can just stop doing it. In a way, it's almost like it's kind of like pair programming, but there's 22 people behind me right now being like, hey, why are you doing that? Programmers focus on text editors too much. Yeah, that might be true. That is the one time I felt like an editor was superior to VI. Still needed Vim motions. You're far more experienced and smarter than me, but I have a lot of Invert training and Linux training that is up to date. Yeah, that's the other thing is new stuff being created all the time. I can't keep up with it. I just used NVim or Vim. There is no need for LSP. That's one of the reasons I want to try and learn NeoVim, because like I said, it has better integration with language servers. How much cash this guy brought in? As of now, $54.96 for the World Domination Fund for today. This was a very good day. So thank you very much to everyone who chipped in. I haven't had any issues on Arch Linux. Here, the Windows build is trash. I use LSP for my C++. All right, well, I'll probably leave it there for tonight. This was a successful stream. Got some code written, raised some funds for world domination. So I'll be back for more tomorrow. Later, guys.